Peter, join me here, and then you will have your deck, but then you can I'll do the intro without you with you here. Donc je vais faire l'introduction comme il y a, je pense, plus de locuteurs en français qu'en anglais. Je vais faire l'introduction en français et après on discutera en anglais avec Peter. Donc je connais donc Peter et on se connaît de longtemps. Peter Coroneos est un expert national éminent en Australie et international, où en Australie il est connu pour avoir pendant plus de 13 ans animé l'association industrielle des prestataires Internet, donc jusqu'aux années 2010, où donc là il était en charge vraiment de développer la régulation, l'autorégulation de l'industrie, notamment par rapport aux problématiques de spam, de phishing, de botnet et d'abus en tout genre. Ensuite, là, plus récemment, donc dans ce cadre-là, il a été invité 2 fois par la Maison Blanche, the White House, I'm talking about the White House, 2 fois par la Maison Blanche du temps de l'administration Obama pour faire état notamment des avancées en Australie en matière de lutte notamment contre les botnets, donc un phénomène d'infection d'ordinateurs à grande échelle. Et plus récemment, Peter a été vice-président de CyAN pendant des années, développant une forte communauté en Australie pour notre association. Et puis récemment, il est revenu à ses anciennes amours, back to your initial passion, donc sur les questions de neurosciences et de résilience mentale. Et donc je voulais, c'est ça dont on va parler aujourd'hui. Donc là on est sur une session qui est plus sur l'humain et sur justement comment on fait face dans le monde de la cybersécurité aux situations difficiles auxquelles on peut être confronté quand on traite l'urgence avec des pertes d'emploi, des pertes d'argent importantes, et il faut gérer ça dans la crise. Et donc c'est un métier qui est exposé, qui est difficile et qui pose la question de la résilience. Comment on arrive à gérer ce stress et comment on le surmonte. Et je voulais vous citer une phrase donc de la définition de c'est quoi la résilience mentale, et après you will be able to go to the you want to speak from here or you want to
yeah, I think
you have a clicker? Ok. Et donc on va parler de ce qu'est la résilience psychologique. Donc c'est la définition du professeur Dr Richard Miller, qui est la personne qui a créé le protocole qui va vous être expliqué par Peter. Donc la résilience, c'est accéder à notre capacité humaine qui est innée pour affronter, répondre et être transformé positivement par les adversités et les circonstances de notre vie. Alors on pourrait résumer en disant ce qui ne vous tue pas vous rend plus fort. Donc c'est un peu l'idée. L'idée, voilà, c'est comment on reçoit des événements de stress et au lieu d'être écrasé par eux, on arrive à les gérer, à les tenir à distance et à les transformer positivement. I will now hand over the mic to you. Peter, over to you.
Merci beaucoup, Jean-Christophe. Mesdames et messieurs, bonjour. Thank you to MaTeCC for having me here at this important conference. I enjoyed the presentations today. I was using AI to translate from French to English in real time, so I was able to actually follow quite well. I think by next year, we'll probably all have neural implants and we'll not need any external device, and then we'll know all languages. But for this year, I will speak seulement en anglais, and today I will speak about the work of cyberminds. So thank you for that. Jean-Christophe, they are making you work very hard today. This is your third session already.
The last one of the day.
So, where do I begin? Jean-Christophe has very kindly explained some of my background in cybersecurity. So I've had more than 25 years in this industry, mainly at the legal and policy and legislative end, and also as an advocate for the industry. One thing that we didn't understand back in the 1990s, when we were encouraging everyone to come onto the internet, we never understood the potential to the degree that we see now of the bad actors coming in and effectively subverting this important the most important innovation, you could argue, in human history, at least in terms of communication, knowledge, value, transfer, all the things that we use the internet for. But the problem is when you create anything of value, then you've also created an incentive for the bad actors to come in and to take advantage. So looking forward to now 25 years ahead of where we were, we're obviously in a situation today, worldwide, and I was hearing today exactly the same issues that you will hear in any cybersecurity conference anywhere in the world today about the challenges that we face. So anyway, with that background, we looked closely at the psychological impact on the teams who are working in cybersecurity. And I had the opportunity during COVID, and just prior to COVID, to test some of this new methodology for psychological resilience with the members of CyAN, of whom I was the vice president, as Jean-Christophe has said. And we saw, even then, we were able to deliver some very positive restoration, even delivering the program online using Zoom as it was. So I realized then that we had something powerful that we could bring to cybersecurity. And so in 2022, I formed cyberminds.org, which is a enterprise social non-lucrative. Would that make sense? So non-profit association. We have now launched. We launched in Australia, and then we launched in the US last year, and we launched in the UK in September, and soon we'll be launching in France as well. We even today produced the handout that you can get a copy. This is in French now for you, especially for this event. We created this. But we want you to know that we are bringing the programs to French-speaking countries as well, and we have facilitators that can deliver in the French language. So it's important for us that we can become universal if we can. Now, let me go back. I wanted to talk today about burnout, specifically, and why this is such a critical issue for cybersecurity in 2024. As you will know, if you work in cybersecurity, the attackers do not take a break. They don't have a rest. There's enough of them that they are operating 24/7, 365. And that means that if you are a defender, then you are carrying a sense that at any moment your organization could be breached. Now, given the consequences of a breach, particularly when we're dealing with very sensitive personal information, such as we've heard today, even information about children, or in Australia we had a massive data breach a year and a half ago, where half the health records of half the Australian adult population ended up on the dark web from one attack. And then the attackers were releasing every day a dossier of a subset of that information. So there was information publicly released about people who had sought medical help for alcohol problems. And then the next day, for women who had had pregnancy terminations. And the next day they released a dossier on people who had mental health issues. And another day they released a dossier on drug abuse victims that were seeking mental health because it was their health insurer that was breached, and they had all this information. They were holding it for 7 years in some cases, beyond even the length of the customer relationship. They were still holding this data. As some people now say, data is not gold. Data is potentially a toxic asset. Right? It's like holding nuclear waste or something. If it escapes, then it's very dangerous. And so these cybersecurity teams, the CISOs and their teams, understand that they are carrying the psychological burden of this constant attack environment, combined with the impact it will have on the end users, the organization, and even their own careers. So this is a very serious situation. So as a result of this, we are seeing burnout levels in cybersecurity that are at very high levels. And this is a problem because, as you know, we already have a shortage of cybersecurity skills in the world. The number now is around, it was 3.5 million, now they're saying around 4 million people we could give jobs to tomorrow in cybersecurity. And the work of MaTeCC and other organizations to train new people is so important because we need the skills to defend our society and our networks and our information systems against these attackers. So clearly we have a problem now. I don't want to discourage the students of cybersecurity that they should not come into this career because it is a very rewarding and valuable thing to do. But equally, we want them to know that the job has some stresses and we need them to know that there is support available so that we can build within them this sense of the internal resilience that Jean-Christophe described. So the starting point for Cyberminds is we are showing people how to tap into an internal sense of strength. We call it unbreakable well-being. This is the expression that Dr. Richard Miller, who developed the protocol that we use. We get them the ability to reconnect with a part of them that can never be damaged. We call this the inner resource, and we use techniques to bring them into states of deep relaxation where they can begin to work with the subconscious drivers that may actually be triggered during a breach situation. And I can talk more about that in a moment. So the important point is that everyone has the capability for resilience, and we need to remind them of how they can access that. The burnout itself has 3 different dimensions. One is emotional depletion, and this is the sense, I think you say, is it épuisement, emotional? Okay, you have the sense of nothing, no energy, drained, nothing left to give, plus rien à donner. Cynicism is this sense of nothing I do makes any difference. This problem is so big, it is so long-term, it is so enduring that this is hopeless, a sense of hopelessness. And the third dimension is a very important one. It's this concept of self-efficacy or perception de la propre. How do you say this? Efficia. Yeah, you said it. So I am not effective. You begin to question your own value, your own abilities. Now, how can that happen? Well, because in cybersecurity, you can never see if you're winning. Unlike other professions, if you do a job, you can see the result. But in cybersecurity, we never know for sure that we're safe. If the board asks you, are we safe? What are you going to say? All you can say is, that's the wrong question. The question they should ask is, are we aware of our risks? And are we able to properly identify and respond to any challenge and to recover? We can't say we're safe, and so this is unique in cybersecurity. It's one of the few jobs in the world where you never know from one day to the next if you're making any real difference. So that's important because over time, that causes you to question why am I doing the job if I can't show the success of my work and my effort. Now, in Australia, we are measuring the effects of these psychological questions. And this one was the third metric I just mentioned, this, perceived self-efficacy is the third dimension of burnout. So we went and we measured in a national study how cybersecurity professionals perceive their own self-worth, their own sense of effectiveness. And we found, if you look at that bell curve, they are doing worse than frontline healthcare workers. During the pandemic, cybersecurity workers are having a lower sense of effectiveness, even than the frontline healthcare workers who were battling COVID. Now, as if that is not already a bad thing, what is even worse is this metric predicts resignation intent. So this metric predicts anyone who is ranking low on this scale is probably thinking about resigning. And we're seeing such incredible levels of this. That should be a massive wake-up call, because it's telling us that our most important, most experienced offenders are heading for the door. And so you think about what the societal consequences of that would be if we start to lose our best talent because of this problem. So I've explained, I've laid out for you the problem space, I've defined the problem space. This is the problem that we are trying to address with cybercrimes. Also, we are now measuring sleep. It turns out that sleep is necessary for our own physical health, but also it's important for our mental well-being, and sleep is also important for our performance on the job. And I don't need to explain that. You know, if you're not sleeping well, you find it difficult to concentrate, to be focused, to be effective. And so look at the average, that line there, the vertical line, shows the average sleep quality of a cybersecurity professional versus the average adult population. So that is another serious dimension to what we're seeing within cybersecurity. And we can speculate on why they're not sleeping well, but I think you might know. Because there's this subconscious fear of what might happen is actually playing in their mind. In the middle of the night, they wake up at 3 a.m. Their mind is racing. What did I forget? Did I patch that vulnerability? Have I correctly configured the cloud service or whatever it is? These are the things that are operating. So we need to give them the tools to switch off so that they can have restful sleep and they can start to re-establish a sense of effectiveness again. How are we doing this? Well, fortunately, we have a very effective protocol which has been developed over 40 years by an American clinical psychologist called Dr. Richard Miller. And Dr. Richard Miller I've met, he is actually working with us directly now. He is based in California, but he developed this IREST, or Integrated Restoration Protocol, which is taken into the US military in 2006 for soldiers coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan who had PTSD, trauma, depression, anxiety, pain, the various things you would expect that people come back from war zones with. And interestingly, we're starting to see similar effects within the cyber population because we are in a kind of war also. The difference is we cannot see who's firing at us. We can't see the attacker. And that may be actually another factor that is unique. So the IREST protocol is actually a method where we can bring the individual out of their emotional state. Have you heard of the flight and fight response? Okay, there's a part of the brain that evolved when we were in nature to protect us against physical threat. And this system is very fast. It is not using the rational mind. It's using emotion and memory, prior memory. So if you encountered a tiger or a bear or something in nature, you have this ability to very quickly respond at a level of the neurochemicals in the brain that trigger your ability to survive. So you mobilize more blood to the muscles, you mobilize a faster heart rate, you mobilize cortisol, the stress hormone, is released. And all of this happens within milliseconds of you perceiving a threat. And this is governed by a part of the brain called the limbic system. It's an ancient, a very old part of the brain. Unfortunately, the limbic system is also activated when there is a non-physical threat. The brain cannot tell the difference between an imagined threat and a real physical threat. In nature, when the physical threat, the bear or the lion, has gone, and you have re-established a sense of safety, the system is designed to return to equilibrium again. This is how we've evolved. And so the heart rate will slow and everything comes back to normal. But in a virtual threat environment, such as we see in cybersecurity, there is no signal to tell you that the danger has passed. And as a result, the cortisol levels stay high, the heart rate stays high, you're in a state of hyperactivation because you are still expecting the threat actor to appear. And that's the problem, is that within the virtual world that we live in now, we are not optimized neurologically to understand when there is no danger. So what the protocol does, we lost the connection. Let's go back. Did it come back? I think we need to use the function command. I'll just speak. So, with the protocol, what we are doing is we are effectively installing an override switch to switch off this system that's remaining locked on. So the protocol is designed to bring them out of this high state of arousal into returning to a state of equilibrium. And over a number of weeks, the brain starts to reorganize itself. There's a concept, I don't know if you know what the French word is for neuroplasticity. Do you know this word? Neuroplasticity is the ability of the brain to change. So this is what is happening when we deliver the protocol. We establish a new default state within the individuals after 8 weeks. We find that they are reporting lower stress levels, improved ability to sleep, making better decisions. All of this because we are retraining the brain through this methodology that we're using. So CyberMind's mission, my mission, using our facilitators around the world, is to bring this program into cybersecurity teams so that we can provide direct support to get them back into a state where they will not resign, but instead they remain active and passionate about the work they're doing. This is what we're here for, to do.
Something important you may want to also say is that this protocol does not call for any sharing of, you don't have to talk about your personal, because as cybersecurity professionals, you don't want to talk about your professional problems to anyone, because then you're sharing sensitive information. Your protocol is back now, apparently, or almost back, maybe some other slide. Your protocol does not call for the professional to share anything. It's just a way to manage the stress, the level of stress.
It's true. We are not doing counselling with these people. We're not sitting down in a room with them and asking them to share their problems. We can do that. I mean, sometimes they want to do that because it makes them feel less isolated. But the protocol itself, they're lying down. If they're working from home, we get them to lie down, they put on headphones, and they listen to the facilitator, leads them through a deep process where we slow the brainwave activity, we bring down the levels of cortisol. There are other good hormones in the brain. You've heard of dopamine. Have you heard of serotonin? Serotonin is the mood-enhancing, feel-good hormone. Oxytocin is another hormone. It's also released when people are in love. So there are a lot of chemical changes occurring in the brain all the time. So what we're doing with the protocol is we're using a guided process to bring about deep states of relaxation where we start to release positive changes in the neurochemistry. So they start to be flooded with a sense of well-being that just comes from the process. And in turn, the new hormonal environment causes new development in the brain in areas of emotional regulation and concentration and other positive qualities. We're actually rebuilding the neurology. So we're not just talking to them. This is not just talk. This is actually doing internal work to optimize your main asset is what's between your ears. You know, professionally, we're all working in knowledge work. Our main asset is our brain. N'est-ce pas? Where? Our main asset is our brain. What are we doing to protect our brain? So this is the basis of our work. So yes, we're not interested in talking to you about your own problem. I mean, if you want to come and talk to us afterwards, you can. But there is no need to feel exposed like this. This is more of an internal process that we are helping you to do yourself.
I mean, we are getting to the top of the hour. I would just like to share 3 examples of how collectively we are not coping well with psychological impact on us. So for cybersecurity professionals, as you explained, Peter, I mean, we have this pressure and it's a never-ending work for the CISOs. So this afternoon we'll hear from OSIM, the Association of CISOs, so maybe that would be a discussion. So we discussed this element. In another field, which is the people dealing with violent content, so what we call the trust and safety teams. So the people dealing with images of terrorist attack or violence or sexual abuse or whatever. These people, it's only now that there is a growing understanding in these professions that they have to cope with the psychological impact of their work. And I was giving kind of a discussion on with law enforcement people, and it was with different people from West Africa, discussing with the French law enforcement, French gendarmerie, and talking about violent content and how to cope with this. And there was a very emotional statement from the head of police, of cybercrime police of Togo, who then made a statement on how he was isolated dealing with violent content and how difficult it was and the need to do something about the psychological impact. And the third element for the kids, for the teenagers, there was an interesting article in the New York Times last week on the young ladies, the young girls, teenagers who were nudified, as discussed earlier, like by the boys who were publishing, distributing this kind of fake images. And the conclusion of the article was from the high school, one of the high school in the US, was we are doing, and this applies so well, I think, to our situation. The conclusion of the article was, we at school, we cope well with the security, safety of our children, but we do not know how to really protect them from psychological harm. And there is so much work to do for young people, for trust and safety professionals, for cybersecurity professionals. And so what you bring here is indeed new. It's never or hardly never discussed. So thank you for coming. I will let you maybe say concluding word, but I just wanted to stress that all this issue of how do we cope with the stress and the depression and how we kind of be more resilient is still very new, and I hope you are going to be successful in your project. So it finally works.
Thank you. I agree, Jean-Christophe. Eventually, maybe we will expand our program so that we can reach a wider audience. But I think for now we want to start with the most critical cyber defenders, because if they go down, then we're all in trouble if we lose our core defenders. I wanted to share the research. Oh, we lost our screen. Luckily, I don't get stressed so much. That one. The QR code there will take you to our website. You can download the research that we've talked about here. Also, I want to encourage you to pick up one of these. This is the program. This is in French now, so you can read it easily. These are the programs that we are now rolling out. One of them is trauma support for during a breach situation. So during an active breach, we want to make sure that we're protecting the incident responders. And also we've got a preventative program, and particularly for young people coming into cyber, we think it's important to give them these skills before they come into these roles, so that they have the resilience and that they're able to not just to survive but also to thrive, so that they can become passionate, connected to the mission and to remain effective. And I think prevention is always better than cure, they say. So if we can prevent, we would prefer to prevent, but if already you are on the slide down to burnout, then we have the capacity to help you come back. And finally, you can go to cyberminds.org or come and talk to me or Jean-Christophe. Thank you very much for your attention today.